This is a love letter to walls. I was walking at night in the city of Bushehr, and I saw a writing on a wall saying, "From Bushehr to Tehran, walls are the only medium we have." Now, for context, in the past 2 years, like 3 years ago, there was a movement called Woman Life Freedom. So much happened that I cannot possibly recite, but a lot of what happened was that people had a lot to say, and they would one of the ways they would say it would be by writing them on the walls. So quite literally, there was no other media to express it in. Digital media was not an option. Any other media was not an option. There was a lot to scream about inside that wanted to come out, and there was very few pages that would hold it. And so people, as it seems to be, as I am finding it to be an innate human signature, turn to walls for it. It seems to be an immediate canvas that people go to, and it's incredibly intimate. Be it paintings on a cave telling from like 16,000 years ago, telling the stories of what happened that day and what were the animals and of the dancing and of the hunting, to hieroglyphs or public toilet doors holding numbers of prostitutes, or love letters, or expression of hatred. So I love going to public toilets, sitting there and just reading anything that is written on the door. There is numbers, there's profanity, there's civil disobedience, there's screaming, there is demanding that people wash after themselves. A very dramatic one said something like, "The only path to freedom is awareness." And it's amazing to think that somebody went in there, sat, pulled their pants down, or not, sat, and took out a Sharpie, wrote that. And for this period of 2 years of Women Life Freedom movement, this was in very short circuit of circulation. So these writings would be painted over. Anywhere you would go, you could find them inside toilet stalls. So again, this is a very private wall that people are finding to talk on, to say what they have to say around. It's so bizarre. It's anonymous, it's not traceable, it's not permanent. You would, anywhere you travel in this, you could travel a lot of places and find a ancient palace that whatever king made, and a lot of people died during the process, and it's huge and incredible, and it's an architectural marvel, and you're like, how did they carry those stones? And on a wall somewhere there's Mahmoud professing his love for Maryam. Something happened with these people, and they kept writing on walls, and there's a wall, and on pavements too. There's a place I go to take my dry cleaning, and at the end of that alley, that was a wild wall. It would be so full of messages of names of people who had been murdered, of cities that have been attacked, of all the atrocities and all the horror that had happened. And then you would go the next day, and that would be wiped over, and some retaliation would have replaced it, of traitors being threatened, and then there would be another, justice shall be served, and then another traitors will be taken down. And it was amazing because at times it would just say something so generic, like justice shall be served, or like the righteous will triumph, something like that. And it was so funny because it could be from any direction. Like, they didn't have distinguished colors, like the left writes with red and the right has blue. You wouldn't know. You would read something on a wall like justice shall be served, and you wouldn't know who's saying it to whom. And it is, yes, a fact. It is a statement. Thank you. What are we going to do with it here? And I would go hiking. There would be out there, well up on the hike, you would see these messages on rocks on the mountain. There would be like, death to whomever, or there shall be vengeance. And then you would go for a hike next week and that message would be wiped, and there would be another message about traitors, and then that message would be wiped, and then there would be they had a whole thing going on. And I would go with my friend, and he hated it. He didn't like the defiling of nature, with what he perceived just like, human bickering that nature shouldn't have to take a hit for. But I loved it. There is one writing on a wall which always brings me to tears. In a cupboard in our home, behind all the stuff, it says King died here, and it has a time of death, which can only be a lonely child who, overwhelmed by emotion under a huge weight, found no one else to talk to. And I would be one of the people who that kid could not talk to. It's not just a public expression, it's also a private diary. It's a cryptic epitaph. That child held an obituary, a funeral for himself, hiding in that cupboard while we were all probably going about our normal days. And the intimacy of it, there is kind of like prisoners writing on their walls, or soldiers soldiers writing their names in their bunkers, lovers etching their names on tree trunks. Or in a library, you would be sitting, and on all of the tables in the university library, there is so much conversation going on. I can't focus in libraries. They are talking non-stop about lovers, about their crushes, about whether they will pass this exam, celebrating their wins, praying that next year I'm gonna be studying here, and then coming back next year and saying I got in, or sending each other messages, what should I do? And then they'd be like, just keep working, you're gonna do awesome. Sending out messages of hope and love, or just writing that I am so done, I cannot take any more of this. I read that on a inside a bus, and said, I'm done, I can't take it anymore. So naturally we would come to the topic of street art, with Jean-Michel Basquiat, Keith Haring, Banksy, Mirza, adorning life and making it livable. Basquiat makes these enigmatic, cryptic, dramatic paintings on walls, and then takes that into high art and galleries, and then you get confused about which is which and which one is metro station, which one is high-end bougie gallery, and then he does this flipping of things upside down, and gets back at systems that marginalized voices like his own as a black artist who did not take him seriously and looked down on him as a street artist. And then he was an incredible philosopher and poet. And Keith Haring, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, with the simplest of lines that are just doing like little thingies. They're like wiggling around, dancing around, or just standing somewhere, or just like shut. These lines are the simplest of lines are standing for the most complex, most pressing, most matters of war and AIDS and oppression. And that is incredible. It is so incredible. It's crazy. And then he flips this elitism on its head, and he makes it accessible, and he makes anyone like, and he makes it possible so that anyone would feel the thing. So stripping away words that are difficult to understand, and then that would have to be put together and designed to create that. You just see one silly, wriggly drawing of a line person, and then you get it. It's very efficient on words also. I like what I'm doing. There is Mirza Hamid. He's a street artist, works in Iran, anonymous person, and I think he got big deals and stuff. But you're walking in city center in Tehran, which is crowded, incredibly dirty, noisy. So much is happening. Everything is jammed together, and the most beautiful things are interlaced with the most disgusting things. And you're walking on the street, and you have to watch your step not to step on trash or rats. It's gross. But then you see a Mirza, and he uses an earthy pigment, so it looks like clay or cave wall paintings, and the figures are graceful and elegant and relatable and so present. So it's an abstract figure just standing there in a moment, and for anyone who is lucky enough or present enough to notice it, invites you to share the moment with. His work gives you a sense of unity. It's contemporary, but it's not of its time. It connects to a shared origin, or the things that we have in common, not in a stark contrast to all the words shouting at each other and being the absolute opposite while saying the same thing sometimes, so you can't locate the narrator. Then Mirza has a figure just watching birds, which I think is a moment that we could all agree upon. It gets more interesting. So, walls being a medium of ever-evolving conversation between the past, present, and future, being public expressions and mandates and declarations, and then also being the most intimate private diaries that you would probably put nowhere else or tell nobody else because it's anonymous. A beautiful thing happens where a 22-year-old-ish filming a student called Charlie Shackleton, I think, creates a movie, and he beautifully tells the story. It's a prank on the British Censor Council. So the idea is that whatever film he made, they would watch and they would cut if they had to with their censoring situation. And so anything that you as a filmmaker wanted to put out there had to go through the censorship filter. But they have to watch everything you make. So this person, the silly genius that he is, records 10 hours of paint on a wall drawing. And so they have to watch the whole thing. And it goes on, and it is the most successful work of Mr. Shackleton, and we thank him so much for it. So it goes on Letterboxd, and what happens is that it becomes a whole thing. The act of watching paint dry on a wall over 10 hours becomes a statement where you're watching you're seeing the creator, you're seeing the people, and then the comment section becomes a free wall for everyone to write on it, which I am so glad that happened, to make this video so incredibly. And I wanna read a couple of the comments made. Someone, 31st December 2023 says, not gonna read the name. Dear friends, first off and most importantly, I hope everyone has a happy and healthy New Year's. Gonna take some time and just shoot my shit using this as my literal diary. I'm too ignorant for therapy and I need to talk about some shit before I explode. There's not gonna be a lot of rhyme or reason with what I type here, and it may seem all over the place, but I just need to talk for a second. Yesterday, I wrapped up my chemotherapy. And it goes on to be a beautiful statement. Walls are everywhere and invisible, and they're timeless. They hold our rage, our love, our despair, our loss. They're witness to our lives. Whether you're seeking catharsis, connection, or simply a place to exist, to be angry, to be happy, to be mournful, to pour out your heart about that one lover who will not take a look at you or who does not know you exist, or feeling such love that you cannot hold it inside and you need to put it on a wall. We always turn to walls as mirrors to be the most authentic, or it's like the most immediate place that you could go to when you're exploding with something that you cannot hold inside anymore and you cannot confine in anybody else. And then seeing fresh writings on the walls, or fresh paintings or doodles or art, it's a pulse, it's a sign that somebody exists, that someone had something to say, that someone was feeling something here. It's beautiful. And then, this is my favorite picture I've ever seen on a wall.